Diddy is now facing total collapse, and it's all because of some key evidence that has just come to light. And trust me, this isn't just any evidence. What's being revealed could link Diddy to a secret underground network that operates in the shadows, far from public view. According to insiders, prosecutors have obtained documents and communications that allegedly tie Diddy to a hidden network involved in some seriously disturbing activities. And when this evidence was introduced in court, it was so explosive that even Diddy, who's known for his confidence and composure, was visibly shaken.
The woman who has been described as the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs' Jeffrey Epstein has just broken her silence regarding these allegations surrounding her and her former boss. What does this statement mean for Christina Korum? Why make it now? And does this give us a clue about what role she may play in Sean Combs' upcoming criminal trial? We're going to bring on acclaimed criminal defense attorney to the stars, Bradford Cohen. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A lot of people have been spoken out about Sean Diddy Combs since his legal troubles first began in 2023. However, there is one name in particular, one person allegedly connected to him who has really not said anything until now. And this could be significant. We are talking about Christina Korum. Now, for those of you following the Combs saga, particularly our coverage of it here on Sidebar, you might be saying, why does that name sound so familiar? Christina Korum has been described in lawsuits against Combs as the rapper's right-hand person, more accurately, his chief of staff. Actually,
witnesses claim his legal team is scrambling, and for good reason. This evidence could tear down everything he's built. According to insider sources, the evidence includes emails, financial records, and witness testimonies that directly tie Diddy to an underground network involved in illegal activities. The network, which has been under investigation for years, is said to be connected to everything from money laundering to human trafficking. The evidence, which was presented in court earlier today, reportedly reveals that Diddy was not only aware of the network, but actively participated in its operations.
I'd function without her. It's a very interesting connection to have, a relationship that he describes, considering he's facing now criminal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, transportation to engage in prostitution. And the thing is, she has been named as a defendant, not in the criminal case. She's not been charged with anything, to be very clear. But she has been named as a defendant and mentioned in various lawsuits. And in light of that, she is now speaking out for the first time. In a statement that was published by USA Today and first reported by Rolling Stone, she said the following, quote, "For months, horrific accusations have been made about me in various lawsuits regarding my former boss. These false allegations of my involvement are causing irreparable and incalculable damage to my reputation and the emotional well-being of myself and my family. I have never condoned or aided and abetted the sexual assault of anyone, nor have I ever drugged anyone. The idea that I could be accused of playing a role in or even being a bystander to the rape of anyone is beyond upsetting."
As the details were laid out, Diddy was seen visibly shaken, and moments later, the courtroom erupted in gasps. The judge was forced to call a recess to restore order, but the damage may already be done. Reports suggest that this underground network isn't just about partying. It's far more sinister. Allegedly, this network has been operating behind the scenes for years, involving high-profile celebrities, powerful executives, and secretive gatherings where anything goes.
There's also an accusation, I'm sorry if I have to get graphic here, there's an accusation that Combs had forced Christina Korum to use a syringe to insert an IUD into Parham. And apparently she and Combs argued over it, not over actually doing it, but that it wasn't going to work. And then there's this. When defendant Drewski finished raping plaintiff, defendant KK, Christina Korum, entered the room to examine the condition of plaintiff, who was barely able to move or control her bodily functions. Defendant KK examined plaintiff to see if she needed assistance and was about to give plaintiff an IV fluid. Plaintiff cannot be certain if she did or did not receive such intravenous intervention. Defendant KK then opened a different bag, different than the one defendant Diddy removed the oil from, where plaintiff observed several medicine bottles, IV fluid bags, and other unidentifiable powder-like drugs. Defendant KK then removed a pill from one of the medicine bottles and gave it.
And here's the bombshell. Evidence suggests that Diddy may have played a central role in organizing and facilitating these secret operations. Social media has exploded with reactions to the news, with hashtags like Diddy Underground and Total Collapse trending worldwide. Fans of the music mogul are expressing shock and disbelief, while critics are calling the evidence a smoking gun that could finally bring Diddy to justice.
The criminal case is that IV fluids would be used after prolonged, allegedly illegal sexual episodes, and that she tried to force one of the plaintiffs, an unidentified woman, to sign documents as well. By the way, in this case, she's being sued for racketeering violations, battery, assault, negligence, intentional and negligent infliction of emotional distress, unjust enrichment, aiding and abetting, sex trafficking, false imprisonment. But that is not the only lawsuit that Christina Coram was named as a defendant in. She was named in another suit by plaintiffs Latasha Forbes, Billy Cummings, Ian Fearon, Ahmad Jenkins, Fallon Matthews, LaQuay Applewhite, and Jane Doe, who claimed that, quote, she aided Combs in his abuse of men and women and basically covered up sexual assaults. She was also reportedly mentioned in other lawsuits, like one filed by a former employee, Phil Pines, who claims that Christina Coram would order him to clean up hotel rooms after Combs' wild sex parties. Again, another allegation in the criminal indictment against Combs. But remember, Christina Coram is not named as a defendant, neither is anybody else, but this is very interesting to hear that allegation.
The revelations have reignited debates about Diddy's innocence or guilt, with many questioning how this new evidence will impact the outcome of the case. Memes, tweets, and videos are flooding the internet as people dissect every detail of the evidence and speculate about what it means for Diddy's future. One of the most shocking revelations? Allegedly, there are records of coded conversations, disguised as harmless discussions, that hint at far more dangerous activities.
So she can provide them to Mr. Combs for his consumption. And by the way, that included allegedly directing bottles of champagne to be spiked with ecstasy. Actually, I want you to listen to this description, because there is a whole section of that complaint dedicated to Christina Coram, where Rodney Jones basically makes the allegation that Christina Coram is the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs' Jeffrey Epstein. That's what it says. And of course, we know that she has been the associate of deceased financier Jeffrey Epstein, who ended up getting convicted of sex trafficking charges, sentenced to 20 years in prison. But quote, according to Mr. Jones, during the 13 months he lived and traveled with Mr. Combs, he witnessed defendant Coram openly order her assistants to keep Mr. Combs high off gummies and pills. Defendant Coram required all employees, from the butler to the chef to the housekeepers, to walk around with a black Prada pouch or fanny pack filled with cocaine, GHB, ecstasy, marijuana gummies, and Tucci. According to Mr. Jones, defendant Coram wanted Mr. Combs' drug of choice immediately ready when he asked for it. According to Mr. Jones, defendant Coram ordered...
For instance, insiders claim that in one leaked audio clip, Diddy references recycling plastic, a phrase that's sparking chilling theories. Some believe it could be a coded reference to destroying evidence, like disposing of credit cards used to fly women in and out of these private events. Others think it could mean something even more disturbing, like getting rid of witnesses or other incriminating materials. Let's take a closer look at how this story unfolded.
And his celebrity guests who were present on his rented yacht and in his homes in LA and Miami. According to Mr. Jones, on multiple occasions, defendant Coram forced him to carry Mr. Combs' drug pouch against his will. The pouches were always black, and several of Mr. Combs' staff carried black Prada pouches. According to Mr. Jones, defendant Coram also sent Mr. Jones to solicit sex workers for Mr. Combs. When the sex workers arrived at Mr. Combs' residence, defendant Coram would negotiate their price and would take them aside and pay them. By the way, he apparently claimed that when he spoke up to Coram about Combs allegedly groping him at one point, she allegedly told him, you know, Sean will be Sean. So now she makes this statement, and here's the thing. Again, she is not named as a criminal defendant in Combs' criminal case where he faces these charges that I mentioned before, but what role could she play? What does this statement say overall with respect to the lawsuits, but what does it also say about a potential role in the upcoming criminal trial? I am made of questions when it comes to this. So for that, I sat down with acclaimed criminal defense attorney Bradford Cohen, who has represented stars like Drake and Kodak Black, to get his take. All right, Bradford, good to see you again. Thanks so much for coming here on Sidebar. All right, what do you make of that statement from Christina Coram, and why make that statement now?
Well, I think it's heating up, and I think she has to make that.
Diddy, whose real name is Sean Combs, was arrested and charged earlier this year following a series of allegations that have rocked the music industry. The charges range from workplace harassment to more serious claims of abuse, and the case has been one of the most closely watched legal battles in recent memory. Diddy has consistently denied the allegations, calling them false and defamatory. But the new evidence linking him to the underground network has cast serious doubt on his claims. And it doesn't stop there.
Things are coming to a head, and I think that now was the time that she had to come out with something to say, hey, listen, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what happened. I have no idea that this was even in the realm of reality, which I find hard to believe that she knew nothing about anything. I don't find it hard to believe about this sex trafficking thing, because I think, and I've said this from the very beginning, is the proclivity towards hiring prostitutes and paying them $10,000 a night for whatever, I think is something that the government is associating with the sex trafficking and making that their crown jewel in the case. I find that to be, very difficult to wrestle with, because in normal sex trafficking cases, you think of something a lot different than those accusations. And I do believe that she didn't know the details of everything that was going on. I don't really find it plausible to believe that she didn't know anything was going on.
Here's the question I have, and I'm not surprised this.
Another leaked conversation reportedly includes Diddy mentioning pizza boxes, which, according to insiders, could be another coded message. There are whispers that this term refers to specific shipments or deliveries tied to these underground activities. If these theories hold any truth, the implications are terrifying, and it could mean that Diddy's involvement goes much deeper than anyone realized. What's even more shocking is that some former associates are starting to speak out.
Newspaper, knowing about the case, reading something, seeing something. It's just like when anything happens, it's good to hear from the lawyer. It's better to hear from the individual. If they're saying mea culpa, I didn't know what was going on, I had no idea, things of that nature. And I'm sure, like I said, now that she's more formally named, now that it's getting very close to trial time, I think it was a smart idea to come out with some kind of statement. I don't see this statement hurting or helping her. It's one of those innocuous statements that's essentially like, let's wait and see how things turn out. I'm going to be vindicated. That's kind of the standard when it comes to these statements that are made and the individual that are stating it. It's just, like I said, I think the heat is starting to be turned up on a lot of these different cases, criminal and civil. And I think now is the right time for her to come out and say, hey, listen, I don't know anything that's going on. I'm sure she's employed someplace else. I'm sure she has some other business that's going on. And my belief is it's probably hurting those relationships she has being associated with Sean Combs.
I want to go back to the criminal case.
One source claims that Diddy has been connected to this network for years, and that these secret gatherings weren't just for pleasure. They were about control and power. And now, with key evidence linking him to these operations, the walls are closing in fast. And here's where it gets even wilder. There are rumors that Diddy wasn't acting alone. Some insiders claim that other major names in the music and entertainment industry may also be connected to this underground network.
I couldn't imagine any universe where she's not called as a witness by either the defense or the prosecution. If someone is an individual's quote-unquote right-hand man or right-hand woman, and they know the intricacies of what is going on day to day, their schedule, what they do, not so much an MO, a modus operandi of like, a crime, but maybe an MO of what they do day to day, right? And I always say this, like an MO day to day would be, hey, I go have breakfast at this certain place, lunch at this other certain place. This is where I go in the afternoon. These are the calls that I make during the day. If she knows kind of his day-to-day schedule and how he operates, the individuals that he knows, the individuals that came to see him at his office or his home, and she was there during that time period, I believe that she would either be useful for the defense or useful for the prosecution. Now, my guess is she would probably be a prosecution witness.
People are even speculating that former proteges like Usher and Justin Bieber may have been drawn into this world. either as participants or as victims. One former staff member reportedly told investigators that Diddy's private parties were just the surface. What really went on behind the scenes was far more organized and deliberate. And now, with key evidence in the hands of prosecutors, those allegations aren't looking like just wild rumors anymore. And let's not forget, this isn't the first time Diddy's name has been tied to disturbing allegations.
People surrounding Sean Combs becoming defense witnesses, as opposed to when an FBI agent knocks on your door and says like, hey, you're a subject, but you're not a target yet. We want to talk to you about these things. And you could become a target depending on, how we feel you fall into this whole thing. And then all of a sudden, people come to the table with a lot different versions of different things that happened during their time with the individual who they're prosecuting.
See, here's my question, right? Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a strong possibility she could be a witness at this case, because you think about it, think about what he's charged with, right? This racketeering conspiracy, this sex trafficking operation, this criminal enterprise. If I'm sitting on that jury, and by the way, we've had this conversation since this case began, no one else has been criminally charged in this case. And it makes me wonder if she is called as a witness and is, again, that's what makes this statement so interesting, right? She didn't come forward and be like, I am ready to testify about all that I...
Over the years, countless whispers have surfaced about the dark side of his empire. But with concrete evidence now linking him to a secret underground network, this is no longer just speculation. It's a full-blown crisis that could destroy his career and his legacy. Legal experts are already saying that if these new revelations hold up in court, Diddy could be facing charges that go far beyond anything he's dealt with before.
He takes the stand as a prosecution witness and gives them and taking these allegations as true, gives them everything that they need. Yeah, I organized this, I cleaned up this, I did that. If I'm sitting on the jury, I'm wondering, why is she not sitting with Sean Combs as a criminal defendant? Can she be asked about that? Can she be asked, did you work out a deal? How come you're not criminally charged? I think that's a big question, because out of everybody we've talked about, based on the allegations in the lawsuits, and it's a question of how much that actually is connected to the criminal case, she's like the central figure. If you're talking about a criminal enterprise, how's she not wrapped up into it? Unless these charges are not strong, or unless these allegations aren't real, unless she really had no part about it. See, that's where I'm struggling with her role in this. I think she's a very important player, but I don't know what she would testify to or what she'd be asked.
I will tell you, and just from experience, you have individuals that take the stand very often to testify against your client because they make deals.
We're talking about potential racketeering, conspiracy, and even human trafficking accusations if prosecutors can prove that this underground network was operating under his watch. And if more evidence surfaces, things could get even worse. And here's the real question: who leaked this evidence? Some people are saying that a former associate, maybe someone from Diddy's inner circle, decided to expose everything. If that's true, there could be even more damning information waiting to be revealed. And if more insiders come forward, it could mean the complete collapse of Diddy's empire.
Of agreement that they have with the individual who's testifying, if they are avoiding some sort of criminal liability, or if they're going to get some kind of reward at the end. And everyone always says, oh, yeah, I talked to them. Maybe I'm hopeful that I can get a discount at the end. I'm sentenced to 90 months and I'm hopeful I might get some time off, but there was no promises, no coercion, all these different things. And that's how these go a lot. But I mean, I've had witnesses take the stand, and I can't even tell you, they're testifying that they used to move 1,000 pounds of weed a week, and the prosecutor's not going to prosecute them for that. And juries aren't stupid; they see that, they understand the motivation behind it. Now, does that mean they're not going to believe anything that individuals tells them? Probably not. They're still going to believe some things that they say, but it does go to their bias, and it goes to, their credibility of whether or not they are expanding on their knowledge, whether or not they're, throwing some extra things in to make sure the prosecution is happy with their testimony and they can get a significant amount of time off. And I always use the Sammy the Bull Gravano as an example, right? Here's a guy, they could have charged him with, 20 murders or something crazy, that took place
Social media is already exploding with these new revelations. People are dissecting every piece of leaked audio and every coded phrase, trying to piece together the full story. Some fans are in total disbelief, while others say they always suspected that there was something darker lurking beneath Diddy's glamorous lifestyle. And here's the most chilling part. There are whispers that this underground network isn't unique to Diddy. Some sources claim that this is just one piece of a much larger system operating throughout the entertainment industry.
You know, and he's got a podcast right now. I watch it every now and then. He's like, you know, a relatable guy. He says like, listen, I was in the mob. I did these things. This is what they asked me to do, blah, blah, blah. And even though he was getting a deal, you know, juries believed what he was saying because of the way that he sold it. And, you know, that depends on the witness, it depends on the preparation of the witness, and it depends on a lot of things. I mean, I've had witnesses that I thought were complete garbage that jury believed. And then I've had witnesses that were complete garbage that, you know, juries didn't believe, and I end up winning the case. It's one of those things. So I think she's a central figure. I do think she's a central figure. And if you're looking at it like a hierarchy, which the government always does, you know, even you see this new case out of California with, you know, they're blaming the Rolling 60s, you know, all these gang members. They have a hierarchy, right? And they show the chart of where everyone falls. I mean, this is allegedly right under.
If that's true, this case could blow the lid off secrets that have been hidden for decades, exposing some of the most powerful figures in Hollywood. And things are only heating up. There are now reports that prosecutors are preparing to call forward new witnesses who could deliver even more damaging testimony. Some sources say these witnesses were once part of Diddy's inner circle and have firsthand knowledge of how deep this network goes. If their testimony aligns with the leaked evidence, it could be game over for Diddy.
Things. And everybody who was helped him did all these things. You should be prosecuting everybody who was a part of it. Or the other way of looking at it is, they won't be able to prove their case against him with digital evidence alone or the victim's testimony. They need people who were a part of this. Am I understanding that right? That she is such a necessary component of their case? Because this is the way I look at it. Again, one of two reasons she wasn't charged. Either A, the allegations aren't true. B, you know, three things. The allegations aren't true. B, there's not enough evidence against her. Or C, she is such a pivotal witness, they absolutely need her for this case. Because again, it came out during the Ghislaine Maxwell case, came out here. How can you be part of a criminal conspiracy if you're the only one a part of it? So in other words, you believe, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you believe she is essential.
What's more, some legal analysts are suggesting that the authorities may already be building a larger case against other high-profile figures connected to these underground operations. If that's true, Diddy could just be the first domino to fall in what could become the biggest entertainment scandal of the decade. And let's not forget, when the FBI raided Diddy's properties, many people wondered what they were really looking for. Well, insiders are now saying that those raids may have uncovered key digital evidence. Things like encrypted messages, private recordings, and even ledgers that track the movements of certain individuals.
On some testimony from her, at least for background of all these different things.
Then going back to the statement, right? How does she testify in a way to say, yeah, I ordered all this, I did all this, but it's still true to her statement that I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't know anything that was going on. How does she do it? Again, because she made a statement on purpose. I have to imagine she spoke to her legal counsel about this before making the statement. But if you're going to be testifying in May or June, you know, and it's going to contradict the statement you just made, allegedly, I don't know, that's the part I'm struggling with.
Yeah, I mean, listen, is it possible that he compartmentalized all these different roles for every single person that's doing it? Hey, I need you to order this. I need you to do this. I just don't see him being that individual that would be on that that micro, you know, that type of detail.
If any of that evidence ties Diddy directly to the underground network, it could mean serious federal charges are on the horizon. And here's something else to consider. If this case expands, it could start implicating people we'd never expect. Some reports suggest that high-ranking business executives, influential politicians, and other celebrities could all be swept up if these investigations keep moving forward. If true, this scandal could shake the entire entertainment and political world to its core.
That's what I would imagine someone of his type would do, as opposed to micromanaging those individual people and say, hey, you're in charge of the cake. You're in charge of ordering all the baby oil. You're in charge, like, I just don't see that happening. Mm-hmm. So my guess is that although she's saying she didn't know, my feeling is she's saying she didn't know the extent, is what she's probably going to say if she takes the stand. She's going to say, hey, I knew we had parties. I knew he liked prostitutes. Mm-hmm. I knew he, might have wanted marijuana there or whatever. And did I tell Bob Smith or did I tell Jane Smith to go do this or do that? Sure, but I didn't know how it all came together. I think that is more along the line of what she's saying, that I had no idea about the scope of it, as opposed to saying, oh, I didn't know he threw parties. I didn't know that, there was sex going.
So where does Diddy go from here? Insiders say his legal team is doing everything they can to suppress this evidence, claiming it was obtained illegally or taken out of context. But let's be real. If the evidence is legitimate and more leaks continue to surface, there may be no escaping the truth. And the more you dig, the darker it gets. There are even rumors that law enforcement is preparing to launch deeper investigations that could implicate not just Diddy.
Is having sex in room 4, I'm going to tell him not to? Like, that's not my job. Right. I have no idea if he's paying that person, not paying that person. All I know is him, her, and her and him go into a room. Those are consenting adults. No one's ever complained to me that this was going on. No one said anything to me. I think that falls more in line with her statement than that she absolutely didn't know anything about anything. I don't think that's what she's saying. I think she's saying she didn't know the extent. She didn't know that things were going on that were allegedly illegal, that, the prostitution that was going on wasn't just consenting adults, that it was some sort of drugging and things of that. I think she's saying she had no idea about that.
And that's my guess. And just to be clear, right, a lot of everything we're saying right now, we're speculating. We don't know for sure. And to be clear, right, Sean Combs hasn't been found guilty of any crime in connection with this case. His trial starts in May. He hasn't been found liable in any of these lawsuits. She hasn't been found liable in any of these lawsuits. She hasn't been criminally charged. The other possibility is she's not called.
But an entire web of celebrities, executives, and insiders who've been part of these secretive operations. If those investigations move forward, we could be on the brink of the biggest scandal the entertainment world has ever seen. So, what do you think? Is this the beginning of the end for Diddy? Could this key evidence bring his entire empire crashing down? And if these leaks are just the beginning, how much worse could things get? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe with notifications on, because we'll be bringing you every explosive detail as this case unfolds. Stay tuned. This is far from over.